to another episode of Hey Human Podcast. This is episode 190, and it's the first episode of 2020. It's a lot of math. I can't believe we're in the new year, but I'm ready for it. Bring it on. This episode I recorded a year ago in Nashville, Tennessee with Todd Michael Rogers, and he tells all about his life story up until, a year ago. And since then, he's had a baby girl with his wife, and that's their first baby. And it's very exciting. Todd has invented a game called Spell Saga. He talks a little bit about that, but mostly he talks about his upbringing and childhood and his outlook then and now. I really enjoyed the conversation quite a lot. Really interesting guy, funny guy, very dry sense of humor, which I love. So I hope everyone's festivities went well and y'all are looking forward to the new year. There's a lot going on for sure. I spent my Christmas driving across country, and so that's exciting. I'm actually recording this. I said that in the future tense and the past tense. I'm actually recording this before Christmas, because I'm going to be on the road. But when you listen to this, I will have traversed across the continent. So that's very exciting. I'm going the southern route into Texas and such, trying to avoid weather at all costs. And I'm so excited because I had a bunch of stuff in storage, which I'm getting all of it to bring here to Los Angeles. And that includes 40 houseplants that Ellen's mom has been house sitting for me. God bless you, Angie Sevier. Thank you for that. I'm so excited to have my green babies back. I'm a total indoor plant nerd. Can't really do much about outside things, but the inside, I do hug trees when they're okay with it. I never hug a tree without its permission, but me and my indoors, love them. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. So Todd and I had a great conversation, really interesting, tons of links on the links page. And yeah, I'm looking forward to you hearing it. Other news, Instagram and Facebook, you can find Hey Human Podcast. You can email me, Susan at heyhumanpodcast.com. I already mentioned the links page. Definitely go check that out at heyhumanpodcast.com. Rate and review Hey Human on iTunes. If you want to know more about me, go to susanruth.com on the World Wide Web. And what else? Oh, my social media is Susan Ruthism. And then if you are feeling in the giving spirit after probably spending all the money there is in the world on the holidays, please go to the donate page on heyhumanpodcast.com. And if you like the show and you want to help support it via donation, please do so through that donate button there on the website. Okay, I think that's it. Thanks for listening, and Happy New Year. Here we go. Todd Michael Rogers, welcome to Hey Human.
Hello.
It's a good thing there's an S on the end of that, or else you'd have 3 first names, which would make you a serial killer.
Or a superhero.
Oh, do superheroes have 3
They have
first names?
2 first names, but I feel like 3 is okay as well.
Oh, okay. All right.
I want to make sure that it picks up me drinking.
Okay. It's a lot of vodka.
Yeah. It's been a minute since I had some vodka.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So we met because I ordered a pizza, and you are a restaurant guy, and
Yes.
as people are wont to do, we got into an interesting conversation, and you are...
It was a strange night, yeah.
You think?
I think a little bit, yeah.
Wow. Well...
In a good way, but
okay.
it was...
Yeah. So you have a lot of very interesting... Your background, it was very intriguing.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and I thought, he'd be interesting to have on the show. So here you are.
I am here.
Yeah, and you said yes, which is also very cool.
Well, I really like attention, so it worked out.
Right on.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go back to the beginning. You're from California?
I am from California.
Yeah. Was that a good upbringing, or?
I mean, in the sense that I'm 34 and I work in a pizza place, I guess no. But yeah, it was good.
It's a good pizza place. It's high-end pizza.
It's
shout out Mafiosos.
It's a lot of it's really good money, but it was an accident how I ended up there. Anyway, it was a confluence of events. But yes, I was. Yeah, I was born in Hollywood, California, to 2 very young punk rockers who had just found the Lord. and moved across the country because they were young, pregnant, and my dad had a job opportunity with my mother's brother who was in California. So
okay,
it was like
hold up. There's already so much in there.
There's a lot, yeah.
Okay, so they were punk rockers who met and fell in love and got pregnant and then found the Lord, or they found the Lord in California. Where did they find the Lord? Where was he living?
So my dad is from close to Daytona Beach in the 70s and 80s in Florida, which was like still super party there. You know, that was what people did. And then my mother was from the frigid Northeast, and she moved down there. They were both, I think, 20 when they met, and they were on the new wave sort of punk scene. They were both in bands, and
cool.
And my dad kind of stalked her, I think, a little bit. But they ended up together, and then they, as you do when you're very young, immediately got pregnant with me. And my mom didn't know for like 3 months that she was pregnant. So there was.
Did she keep partying? Oh
yeah, and I think it definitely showed, like in the way my brain works. Yeah, they kept partying, hanging out. But anyway, they met, got pregnant, found the Lord probably within this 6 months, I think.
Did they find the Lord because they got pregnant?
I don't think so. I think it was just, after you're done partying and dancing in Florida in the 80s, I mean, what else are you going to do?
I guess buy a condo, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. There was a big, cult-like revival of a certain strain of Christianity that hit in the late 70s and early 80s.
Which strain was that?
It was the strain where people didn't have a lot of money, so they would meet in places that they would dub vineyards. And I remember growing up, because we were my friends used to live in it deep in the church, but it's my dad was the worship leader and stuff, so we would go. It would always be some weird place, be okay, we're in this movie theater for the Lord, but at 1 o'clock we have to leave because they're going to start showing Jurassic Park. So that would be it was like that, and there was a lot of
That's irony if I've ever heard it.
Yeah, and there was a lot of crazy rules in that specific sort of strain of Christianity.
Which strain was it?
I don't have a name for it. I guess
okay.
Crazy 80s Christian strain.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and so you have memories of being in that church and everything.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that was in Florida still?
No, that was in California.
Oh, so
that was in Southern California. So
did they find religion in Florida?
They found religion in Florida, and then they were pregnant, and then they had to move and drive across the country immediately because they only had one prospect, and that was my mom's brother.
Okay, and what was that field in?
Some sort of data entry level sort of job, I think.
Had your uncle also been into the church, or was it?
No. My uncle is a writer from New England who has lived in California since he moved there in the early 70s. I think he still lives in the same apartment.
Rent controlled, I hope.
Yeah, rent controlled for sure, which is why he's still in the same apartment. And what used to be the scary part of Koreatown, which is now the really nice.
Yeah, Koreatown's really.
It's real nice now. Yeah.
Yeah, all the cool kids live there. Wow, that's cool. I'm sure his landlord loves him.
I'm sure. Yeah, he was there during the LA riots and stuff. I mean, we were too. We were out in the desert by then, the meth desert of Palmdale and Lancaster.
Meth desert.
Yeah, there's a lot of after we moved.
Movie.
Yeah,
be a good movie.
Yeah, it's pretty bad supposedly since I've left.
Wow. Yeah, the country is being swept up in all those sorts of things. Okay, so teenager years, you're coming up. Were your parents still in the church then?
Real hard, yeah.
And how was that for you?
It was not good.
Do you have siblings?
Yeah, I'm the oldest out of 6.
Whoa, lots of siblings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they kept liking each other.
Do they still like each other?
Yeah, most of the time. As any couple that's been married for
gajillions of years.
Yeah, they're still pretty good. They're back in California. They moved here to Nashville for 20 years and then moved back.
Oh.
My dad's in the film industry now. And they're doing okay. Yeah.
So you were the head child.
not in anyone in the family's eyes, but yeah, I was the first child.
First child.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so as you're coming up in that, and the religion is such a big part of, I'm always fascinated by this because families.
Did you grow up with religion in your family?
My dad's a scientist, mom's an archaeologist. Not that precludes religion.
Sure, but there's more of a logic based.
Well, and they were very, and I've talked about it before, but on the podcast, but they were very much. My dad's Jewish, my mom's Episcopalian, and they were very much. These are all the major, minor religions. These are the mythologies. This is the ancient wisdoms. You know, they talked about the earth religions, all that stuff. And I was 5, by the way, when they had this conversation with me. And they said, we don't get to tell you who you are. That's your journey. But we'll support whatever journey that is. And so cool. I would go to temple. I went to friends' churches. I went to church with my mom on Sunday, temple on Friday with my dad. I studied Hebrew and Latin. Wow. Like all the shenanigans. And I've never lost my fascination with religion or why people choose to or not be in a spirituality or a religion or a a science or
That
again,
sounds
not that
like a healthy way to go about it.
I mean, it worked for me for sure. I don't know that it would work for everyone. I think some might say that is a lack of coddling.
Maybe, but maybe that's okay.
Some people need that, but for me, it worked for me for sure.
I don't know.
I'm the only one of the kids. I'm the only one that believes in something.
How many kids in your family?
There's 3 of us.
Okay.
So, and I'm the baby. I'm the accidental whoopsie baby.
Right. I was the accidental first. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So there you go. Here's the happy accidents.
Yeah.
And pizza. And yeah, so I think that's interesting too because, having the journey for oneself is a healthy way to go.
I think I had my own journey eventually, but it was all, we were raised, not even biblically, we were raised in a fear of everything, from demons to people who were different.
What does that mean?
Everything was wrong growing up.
Meaning people that weren't in the religion, or
people that weren't in the religion, people that had different lifestyles, perhaps, if you were gay, whether you were a family member or not, that was hidden from us for many, many years.
Was anyone in the family gay?
In the extended family, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did your parents know that and just say, nope?
Oh, yeah. They just kind of,
That's interesting coming from Florida, which I don't know. I know Florida can be super duper conservative, but
it was like that specific strain where you're going to church 2 or 3 times a week and you're being indoctrinated in fear. And I'm not saying that's everyone's, thing, but in this specific style of growing up, which is funny because, not to jump everywhere, but so my wife also grew up in the meth desert of California, but her whole life, and we didn't know each other till we met here, but we were in like the same like Sunday schools doing like glitter pictures of Jesus together, but we had no idea.
Wow, that's so cool.
It's insane to me.
Also, Jesus glitter pictures are cool.
Those are cool too, yeah.
I feel like now I want to go make one of those.
Well, we still can.
On the next
it's not hard to do, but so in that way it's kind of funny because I don't believe in anything, and yet if I was to believe in something, it would be
that.
Absolutely, it's like, oh well, that shows there's a plan or God. It's like, granted, it's a really good story, but it's crazy happenstance to me.
Does your wife believe that it's a God thing?
I don't know. I think we've grown together to the point where we have allowed each other our own thoughts and journey, which is hard to do as a couple for some reason, but I think she believes in something more than I do.
Mm-hmm. And that's okay. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I think is lovely.
As long as something isn't holding anyone back, I'm all for it.
You touch on something very interesting that hard to do for couples. I think that maybe stems from a fear of, if this person believes something different than me or is growing in a different direction than me.
Yeah.
If I let that happen, as if you had any choice. But if I let that happen, they might grow away from me.
Right.
And that's terrifying.
Is how you think when you grow up in any sort of cult-like situation. It's all based on fear and control. It's not all about heaven and hell. It's, every single aspect of your life is fear and control. And certain people are more prone to that behavior. Like my whole family has like a ton of like obsessive compulsive disorder and stuff like that. And like that's anything you can if anything says here's a guide to controlling this thing or keeping that fear at bay, it's like a bomb for your head that's constantly shattered and fractured, and you're touching walls and picking up trash because you're afraid that, the devil's going to eat your family if you don't do it or something, which I totally did growing up.
Yeah.
I had all sorts of weird rules and rituals and things to stay safe. That was all, it's like the idea of like early occultism or something like that, but it was all stuff I had made up based on how I was raised.
And your dad was the pastor?
He was the worship leader.
Oh, explain the difference.
Okay, so the pastor is the one that teaches the lesson until he is inevitably outed from the church for doing something, which is usually how vineyards kind of roll. There's a lot of turnover because there's a lot of money coming in.
So this is the name of the church's vineyards.
It's a type of church.
Got it.
There's this vineyard and that vineyard.
Got it.
And my dad was the worship leader, which is, you have a group of people that wanted to be full-time musicians and either didn't make it or have decided to push all their efforts and everything towards the church, which is fear and control. My dad was the worshipist. He would be the one that would lead the band. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so it'd be like a live band.
Yeah,
He'd be playing electric guitar, acoustic, and singing.
Sense.
Yeah, they'd have like a little projector from the 70s, and people be putting these little flip slides on, and everyone be reading the same things, and like these songs that were they sound like Christmas songs, but like that you would sing if you were burning someone's village down. Like that's kind of how they sounded.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It's like that M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah. Which I think is something I'm trying to get towards in my own music, is that style too. Like,
yeah, there is sort of a off-putting, and I mean that as a compliment, because I think that's what you're going for in your music.
So,
when I listen to it, it's like, ooh, that stirs up some stuff.
Yeah. I'm trying to write. I write songs when I need to, and so it's like a way to deal with some shit, and so hopefully I'm glad that comes across. That sort of awkward, sort of not horror movie, but sort of weird sort of thing where it's something
makes you a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, it should. And I like a lot of discordant chords, and I can't really play guitar very well, so it just strum everything.
Kurt Cobain made millions on making people feel slightly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why they feel that way.
Yeah.
So how old were you when you went, this seems not quite me? And were your other siblings coming in line with you, or
I was the weird kid. I was kicked out of the family by the time I was 18 or 19. That was the first time.
For?
What was it that time? I don't. If I had to boil it down, it would probably be because I was strung out on prescription drugs that I had been forced to take and losing my shit.
Forced by them?
Yeah. I was a weird kid. I had some definite learning disabilities. Like I was weird. My head works strange. Like I took pre-algebra 3 times and couldn't get it, but I got geometry like immediately. Sure. Like I would get certain things.
It's a different kind of math.
Yeah, and I was emotionally overreactive. I think looking back, probably because my parents were very young when they had me, and there was not a lot of emotional boundaries growing up, and it's hard to. And we homeschooled for part of the time until they put me in public school, so it fucked me up, right? And I'm not like blaming my parents; like they were doing their best. It was just like there was a certain order of events that led to me not being able to act like a normal human being until I had been on my own enough time to burn my hand on society's oven, you know? So that was probably, it's funny because I posted a picture on Instagram of myself in 9th grade I wrote something about like, oh, this was me in 9th grade, highly medicated, and my mother, it like bounced to a page on Facebook that I had that I didn't even know my mother followed, and she said, highly medicated, and I was like, fuck are you talking? Yes, you guys have me on a bunch of medicine. Like, it was like, I was on 3 times the amount of Adderall I was supposed to be on. Like, I looked and sounded insane. I was on crazy amounts of speed.
Yeah.
So that was probably a big reason why I was kicked out of the family.
How is the culture shock going from homeschooling to public schooling?
I got the shit kicked out of me on a weekly basis. I had a shoe imprint on my stomach once for 3 weeks. Like, I got everyone in the school hated me, and that's not like a hyperbolic thing. It was like I was in 7th grade when I went back into school.
Oh, rough year anyway.
I had 2 friends. One had a little boy haircut, and he'd get in fights with his cat at his house. The other one, his nickname at school was Titty Wonka. Those were my 2 only friends. And
wait, did you say he got in a fight with his cat?
Yeah, he would fight his cat when he would go home. He was like this little kid with this little boy haircut, and he would like fight his cat when he got home. And the other guy who had the horrific nickname, he would just go with. It was like, oh my God, this poor guy. I mean, I had terrible nicknames too. But his mom called the school once and told them I had brought evil to school because we're in the South. Yeah. And so I was pulled out of class once. So when I said the whole school hated me, the principal, who was seldom seen, walked me out of class and asked if I had brought evil to school and what that might mean. And I'm like, you know, what?
So was that child's family also in this religion?
Some sort of similar religion. There's a lot of different clusters
there. Okay.
In the South. Yeah. I mean, it's.
Yeah. This was still in Florida.
No, this was here. This
was in Nashville.
Yeah. So my parents moved.
Okay, I'm sorry. I must have missed.
So my parents got pregnant, moved to California, had 4 kids. We moved to Spokane, Washington for like a handful of maybe 2 years. They had another kid. Then they moved here and they had the last kid. Okay. And that's when I went into, we all suddenly, instead of, there were so many kids, it's like, okay, we're going to regular school now.
Got it. All right.
Yeah.
Now I'm caught up.
We hopped around a lot.
Yeah. That's hard anyway on kids.
It was not great.
Were you bonding within the children, within your siblings at the same time? Because at least you'd have each other.
No. I mean, not really. Like, I love them and I like them. We did not.
What are the age differences?
Okay, so let's see. I was born in 1984. Asher is a year and a month younger than me, I think. My mom was like breastfeeding me when she was throwing up from morning sickness with him.
Lord.
Yeah, I know. And then my brother Sam, I think he's 3 years younger than us. My sister Olivia, she's like 27 now.
Great names, by the way.
These are good names.
Strong.
Except Todd. Like, I don't know. I asked my dad, I was like, why would you give me the name Todd? Because it sounds like if you stubbed your toe and had to think of a curse word like super quickly. Todd. Like, and he's like, oh, well, when I was a kid, that was the coolest kid in school. His name was Todd. I was like, why? You knew that was going to backfire. Like, why would you curse me with that?
That's hilarious.
That's probably why I have so many nicknames. But, yeah, Todd, Asher, Sam, Olivia, Benjamin Henry, and he goes by Ben, but it's a good long name.
That's a good name. Yeah.
And then
sounds like a writer, Benjamin Henry.
It does. And then the youngest is Joy.
Aw.
Which is her middle name, but that's what she goes by.
Oh,
so.
That's a lovely name too.
That's good. Yeah.
Huh. And what did they all? What's their stories? Not to speak for them, but are they all over the place?
They are. Well, they were. Now, Asher and Sam and Ben, all my brothers are in New York now. Mm. And Asher and Sam were in a band and then called the Cactuses. And it was tropical punk. It was cool. And then...
Tropical punk?
Yeah, it was cool.
Does that have a nod to Dickie Dale or not really?
No, it's just this
its
thing that they sort of... It was cool. It was a while ago. It was over 10 years ago. But then Asher then the band moved to South Korea, right on the demilitarized border, and that's where Ash was living for a while. And then he was in New York with my brother Ben, and they were in a band called Captain Baby, which may or may not be a band still, but it's super good stuff. It's weird.
Okay, I love that name.
Yeah, it's real catchy and real weird. I don't know where... I just talked to Ash the other day. He'll call me at random times, and it's always the most unexpected. He's always like, hey, brother. I'm like, what? You never call. What do you want? What happened? And he'll be living in an asbestos-lined closet in New York at some bar or some stuff. But he's, he is
on his own journey.
He's on his own journey, but he is an incredibly talented artist that has been trying to figure out what he's doing on Earth for a while, just like many of my parents' kids. And, Ben's a musician. Sam is or was a musician. He was in a band. He was the lead throat, which sounds pornographic, but he was the lead. He was the lead screaming.
I've been that.
Yeah, we've all been there. He was the lead singer for this band called They Said We Were Ghosts, which is a pretty good
cool
name. Pretty good name.
Taking on these names.
Yeah.
I like it. Huh. All right. Are your parents still religious? And when did they...
My mother is. My father recently... My dad has on his best of days, a showmanship sort of quality to him. And so we were in a hotel room a couple months ago, and he goes, out of the blue, we're all saying, he goes, I don't think I believe in God anymore. I'm like, God damn, why did you owe me a huge apology? But and then I just saw him recently, and we had this really good... defining father-son moment conversation recently. It was on Halloween, actually. And
way to bring evil.
Yeah, for sure. And he said he thinks maybe he does now. He's trying to figure out what he thinks about it all. But it's a big step for anybody to go, I believe this thing for this long, and now I'm going to go in the uncomfortable territory of exploring why and what that means and stuff.
Do you think that will corrupt your parents' relationship? Or do you think they'll be fine?
No, they're both in love and dramatic, and they would be bad without each other. And they know that. So
you said that they live in California, and your dad is in the Hollywood
He's in
culture.
the finance sector of the film industry by... strange roundabout ways.
He must have had to let go of the not liking gay thing because
he sure did.
Big
He sure did. Yeah.
Movie culture.
Yeah. It's not just him. I think there's a lot of people his age that
Sure.
all say that same. So I don't have any problem with it, but it's like
always beware of the but.
Yeah, and I grew up like you and I are. When were you born?
That sounds about right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had to grow up learning a lot of shit, not just outside of Christianity, but just I had to figure out oh, I'm kind of sexist and I'm kind of racist, and I grew up that way, and I got to figure out why.
You were trained to feel that way.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. But it just especially working in a restaurant, it's crazy racist in a restaurant.
It is?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, see, I would think there's so many cultures represented in the restaurant.
Go to any restaurant, see how many black people work in the back, how many white people working in the front.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And then there's the whole thing.
I guess I was thinking in terms of, I know that people of different cultures work in restaurants. You're talking about who gets seen versus who doesn't get seen.
Who gets the money, and then you got which tables come in. It doesn't matter what. I've worked at a lot of restaurants, and you learn as a server to feel racist, and you have to figure out how to stop that thinking as quick as you can, because it's oh, this table isn't white, they're not going to tip. It's first of all, that behavior is institutionalized, and it's the fault of white people to begin with. So you have to, every time a table comes in, you have to try to tell yourself this is a clear playing field, and there can't be any prejudgments, because of course at the end of the day, it's true, there is no prejudgment, but you get it in your head, and especially a lot of the older servers that I worked with, I'm not saying even my restaurant, but plenty of other ones have been, really shitty, great people that happen to be really shitty racists. And you're like, where did that come from?
Yeah. I think that's an important point to make, that it's that whole thing of, it's Bill Cosby. I always bring him up because, or Hitler, for example.
Well, they're kind of in the same page now.
Not really, but they're different. But I see what you're saying. Bill Cosby is a comic genius. He's also a rapist.
Yeah.
Are those mutually exclusive? Well, of course they are. You can be a comic genius and be a rapist.
Right.
And it's an interesting thing to point out. I always say, like, oh, well, somebody loved Hitler. God knows, Ava or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's a bizarre thing to think about, that the people who have thoughts that are maybe darker or more hateful or whatever, they could be funny, lovely people in general.
That was a big part of...
It's a weird thing to wrap your head around, though. And I think it's an important thing to talk about.
It was a big part for me growing up the way that I did, which was to find out that your thoughts aren't necessarily evil, it's your actions. Which, I'm paraphrasing Dumbledore from the Harry Potter books, but that is a big part of trying to deprogram any sort of cult-like thinking.
Sure.
Is to figure that out.
Well, yes, you can go through your whole life thinking the worst possible thoughts in the world if you don't act them out and you don't treat people poorly.
And you have to figure out how to be honest with yourself too. Like, that's not okay what I'm thinking right now. That is wrong, and it's actually probably because of these things.
Or even if you think it's right.
Yeah.
Even if you think it's right, it doesn't have a place maybe outside of your brain. Or
there's a lot of there's a lot of jokes, and you'll. I have a lot of friends that have done stand-up or wanted to, things like that. And there's a lot of people, there's a lot of really dark humor in any restaurant or any sort of industry like that where you have to work a lot and there's a lot of physical labor. And it's bad, but it's
human interaction, because people can be jerks.
Yeah,
I've been on dates where my date has treated the servers horribly, and I'll never go on a date with that guy again. But it's like, wow, really? You needed to flex that moment?
That's weird. That's weird
so
for
gross.
Me serving, because I did not serve tables growing up at all. Like that was just to pay for a fantasy card game. So it's like. It's weird to see the public through that sort of lens now, where it's like, oh, I'm being judged right now because I'm serving you. I understand. Okay. Also because my hair is crazy. I get it. Like, it was bleached out before, so if you serve pizza with like purple or green hair, you're gonna get a look, and that's okay. I totally get that. That's fine.
That's so interesting. All right, so that was a really great left turn.
Yeah, segue into a bunch of other stuff.
Are you close with your parents?
Now I am. Yeah. For sure.
And your siblings, they sort of check in here and there, and
some of them.
Yeah.
We're all really late bloomers, and I didn't even start getting my shit together till I was 27 and met Megan, my wife, and like. I'm still getting my shit together. So if I'm 34, I just assume that for all of us in my family, like, to figure out who we are is going to take a few years,
or maybe a lifetime.
Maybe a lifetime.
I think that's true for all of us.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
Some people seem to have it down, but those people tend to bore me.
I get that. You wrote in your email to me that music saved your life. What did you mean by that?
I think that's true.
a very big thing to say.
When my parents moved back to California, I was 30, and my dad, who used to be a songwriter, had not played his electric guitar for a long time, and it was just hanging on the wall of our childhood house, and they were just kind of like taking everything and leaving, and it was just still hanging there. I was like, hey, you want me to hang on to that for you? Because I had been drinking and playing drums when I was drunk in my friend's basement. I was like, oh, I'll just grab a guitar. Let's be fun. And it had been like a year or two where I was like, I really want to play guitar, but like I wasn't going to act on it. It was just more like I had never felt like that before. Everyone grows up like, oh, I want to be a rock star, but like I had never physically wanted to like hold a guitar, and like they were around the house growing up all the time. There was plenty of guitars and basses and super crazy amount of instruments. And especially because my brothers were all in bands and they all practiced at our house. Like I could have played anything I wanted to, but I didn't give a shit. But I turned 30 and the guitar was hanging there. I was like, let me hang on to that for you. And he said, yeah. And I took it home and I would plug it into like a blues amp my brother left behind. And I would just kind of pick at it and play at it. And I didn't know anything. I knew one chord. And I named it based on what I thought it sounded like. I named it Evisceration. It was a C, but I didn't know. That's what it sounded like to me.
Evisceration C would be a great band name.
It's not bad at all. And I started like doing that thing where I'm making shapes with my fingers, and every time I would, it was a pretty rough couple of years that I was having, and every time I would have like some rough thoughts or feelings, I would just sit there and just strum these shapes that would make me feel better. And then I would start putting the shapes together after a couple months. I'm like, I think that's a song, you know, and come up
there
with
you are
like,
with
melodies
geometry.
and singing. Yeah, I guess so, right? Yeah.
Because music is mathematical, right?
Yeah.
But if it spoke to you in terms of shapes, it makes sense.
That's all I can do too. Like I've tried to learn, you know, otherwise, but like it's all I can do is figure out something that sounds like the way I'm feeling, save it as a voice memo, and then string them together at some point. That's the only way I can write really well at all. And I was like, I'm going to put a band together. And it was so poorly planned, but I was like, we're going to call ourselves Jesus Destroy Them. Because I thought it was a funny phrase, like praying for God to destroy your enemies seemed like the exact opposite of what you should pray for. And then I eventually was talked out of it. I was like, you're right, people are going to think that's something else. It's a joke to me, but people are going to think it's something else. I've lost my head. Anyway, I kind of kept trying to put people together, and they kept flaking or not want to do it. And I met this guy named Zach at a party. And Zach was like in a touring band. He just got back from Japan. He's still touring with his real band, is what I call it. And we were at a party, and I had heard he had like a recording sort of space. And I had like maybe 5 songs. I had voice memos of at this point. I was like, hey, I'd love to like play with you or something like that. And he's like, cool, what are you trying to do? I was like, I want to record on VHS tapes and then pull them apart and then string them back together and then record it crinkled up like that. And he was like, that sounds bad, but let's do it. And then we still haven't done that, but we've been recording and playing together for like 3 years now.
That's cool. And what is that band's name?
That's Efforts.
Mm-hmm. So what is the Subheathen?
So Subheathen is me.
But is that not the name of also?
So it's everything that I make is under that sort of banner.
Okay.
Or business or whatever.
How did you pick Subheathen as your moniker?
Zach helped. So it was going to be Suburban Heathen because everything that I make is something that my parents would have told me was evil. And now, of course, when I share it online, like they're super proud, and so it's funny to me.
Everybody
but like,
grows, right?
Yeah, everyone does.
And
so Subheathen is like my music. So I've got the band Efforts, and I got the band Beset, and I've got a side project I'm trying to do called Death GIF because it made me laugh.
GIF or gift?
GIF.
Okay.
GIF.
Yeah.
.gif. Death.
The gift
GIF.
that keeps on giving.
Exactly.
I like it, yes.
So, and then I got comic books that I make and poorly illustrate, and I got my card game and whatever else I want to make. Just it's all under Subheathen.
What started the card game adventure? Because so for the listeners, you have this game, and it's a solo player. I'll let you describe it all, but to take on that seems like a monumental.
It was impossible. Yeah, it should have been impossible. Especially like now, it's a little easier to do stuff like that. But when I started thinking about it, it was impossible. It was 9 years ago this month. I came up with the idea for a game that was solitaire style. So you play it by yourself, and I wanted a game that felt like a story. Like I wanted someone to be able to open a box when they were feeling lonely and go deep into a world that would mean as much to them as any movie that they loved or something like that. And it took a couple years to get a prototype that worked. And when I before I even had a prototype, I guessed the email of this guy named Peter Atkinson, who owns the world's largest board game convention. He got Dungeons and Dragons famous again when he bought it from TSR, and he started Wizards of the Coast, which does Magic the Gathering. Hasbro bought him out and stuff. So I guessed his email on the 6th try. I said, I got the next big thing. I'll meet you anywhere. And he was like, all right, come meet me at my giant convention. And I was like, it's in 3 months. I was like, fuck. I didn't have anything that worked at all. And I was in the end of my first crumbling marriage. And I was 26, I think 27. And in 3 months, I completely put this thing together. And my cousin Lauren, who was in high school, helped do art for it. And she's still the illustrator, and now she's out of college now. And I went to Gen Con as a convention with my buddy Sakroka, and I pitched this game to him, to this guy Peter, and he said he really liked it, and he would probably publish it, but he had just stopped publishing games. And then I went home, got divorced, got kicked out of the house, and ended up living above my aunt's garage alone with this game I had made for people who are alone.
Why did you get divorced?
The real question is, why did I get married? But
sure, is that to have sex? That's why most religious people.
No, I was already.
That's a terrible thing to say.
I was already bad at that. I was already doing that. I got married very young because I think that artists like to define and tell their own stories, especially people that might have grown up with a childhood that they did not enjoy. And I thought, well, I liked the story of how I met this person and I made this happen, and I'm going to force my life into this sort of current. Yeah, and it wasn't the right person. There was a lot of problems.
That is a very interesting thing to look at. I've never thought of it that way, that you have this story that is yours because you were born into this family. And when you're old enough to then tell your own story, this fantasy life that sounds so good that you try and shove who you are into. Yeah.
I mean, people do it all the time with, like, especially it's so easy now with Instagram and everything else. Like, everyone's constantly typing about how happy they are, but it's never when they're happy. It's always like when something, I know when something bad is happening in the lives of my loved ones because they're talking about how happy they are on Instagram or Facebook.
Right. It's always suspicious when you see the couples. They're like, I'm so in love. I'm so in love.
Yeah,
like, ooh, I give that.
How do you have time to write about this then? Thumbs up.
I was in Malibu meeting somebody for a meeting at that Moonshadow's place, and I was down by the water, and I was just kind of waiting out the time. And I was watching this girl taking selfies of herself. She was doing it from all these different angles and the different light. And she would look beautiful, and then she just looked tragic and so sad and depressed. And then she would take the picture again, and she would be elated, and then her real self would show up. And man, it was very sad to watch and so enlightening. Craziness. But anyway, go on. I digress. So how did you guess 6th try? That's very impressive. All you FBI people out there, you need to give them a call.
I have done it before. Like, there's only so many combinations that someone will have, so it's a good way to get someone's attention or to piss them off. But so I was divorced, and I had this game for one person only, and I was now one person only, and I thought that was super ironic, and I sort of put it away for like a year or so, and then I met Megan, and it was the last thing I wanted was a relationship. I was like, I'm not gonna be that guy. I'm not jumping right into this again. I am never gonna be with anybody because I don't believe in being with anybody. I had gone completely the opposite way.
How'd you meet her?
Mutual friends, which is the best way because you already all get along, so they must have something in common with you, besides making glitter pictures of Jesus when you guys don't remember hanging out as little kids. And she is, Megan's an artist, but she's more like a fine artist, whereas I do like what was once trashy pop culture art, but is now what makes people millions for some reason. And so it's been good for us to see each other's sort of outlook on life and what we make. Oh, okay, all right. So it doesn't always have to be do-it-yourself punk rock or whatever. Like, there's other ways about it. You can go to school for art, which I still is like, I'm like, okay. But some people do, and it works for them, I guess.
Where does the game go within itself?
So the game is a post-apocalyptic medieval western, which is it's like a joke genre, but it's so you play the last minstrel and the world has ended, and you're searching for why the world ended. So it's basically a game about identity, and you start in the highlands and you end up in the forest, and then you end up in the caves, and that's like the 3 parts thing. And there's a beach at the end where, if you can get to the end, that's where answers are found. If you can last throughout the game. Are
you solving problems along the way? How do you get
sometimes?
From point A to point
so it's funny because after I made the game, I realized that it was a complete breakdown of how I view the world. So in the game, so you have you've got cards that are in different piles, and the place pile is where your hero token is, and you move from place card to place card, and each time that's a turn. You go in clockwise or counterclockwise in a circle until you can figure out how to leave that circle, which is how you get to the next deck. And there's different ways, like card combinations. You need this, so you need this item. You need to be at this place for this item in order to get to deck 2. When you get to deck 2, take everything you earn from deck 1 and move to deck 2. And then deck 2 is a maze, and you have to figure out how to move the cards into the right order that you can get out. And things like that. Sounds like
make a cool movie.
It might, but that's, yeah,
Get your dad on that.
Maybe so. It's weird because, like, we grew up so ultra poor in the desert where, like, we called it like my mom calls it the shack where we were living. Like, we would make our own food and there would be like bugs in it. Like, we were literally dirt poor. And now he's, doing film finance, and they live just outside of Beverly Hills. Like, it's super strange. Life changes a lot, I guess.
Growth. It's all about growth.
Yeah.
And, it sounds like, as sucky as it is to be picked up and dragged across the country as a kid, it gives you, I think, a sense of leaping.
Yeah.
And for you to, in fact, try 6 times to get a hold of that. Who does that? You know what I mean? Like, that's a person.
That might have been OCD, but yeah, you're right.
Well, call it that. That's fine. But I do think that those are the gifts of an unstable childhood.
I think that that's true, and I think that there is a lot about. I was just on Halloween when I was talking to my dad. We talked a bit about that, where I said, I feel kind of bad for you and some of the kids, because you all were kind of popular and you knew what you wanted growing up, and I had it kind of rough, and I feel like everyone that I admired that did the things that they do had it really rough, and I had kind of my own sort of hero's journey, and I feel like you guys didn't get to have that because it wasn't as hard or something. And my dad was he said there's something to that, and he said, I remember being 34, which is my age now. He said, I remember being 34 and standing in our kitchen and thinking, like, it was his band had just broken. He said, I was supposed to be someone. He said, not that being a father is, no, I get it. You want, like, I get it. That's a very honest thing to say. Hopefully it won't kill me for saying that on a podcast.
No, I think that's a very real thing to say.
And I've never had that feeling. I was supposed to, like, it's more like, things are continuing and they will continue. I'm not supposed to have anything. I don't have some sort of birthright of privilege or something. Like, I have what, makes for a good story in terms of, where I could end up, but it's all over the place.
Have you gotten to the beach in your own life?
No,
do you think?
No, I've been stuck in the forest for a while. I think I just got out of the forest. So I eventually used Kickstarter to get the game funded, and it failed the first time, which was super embarrassing because people around the world were like, they saw this thing I made and people were playing it, which was awesome, but I it felt like failure. It didn't feel like, yay. But I mean, I found all these friends and...
That's probably cold coffee by now, if you want to...
That's all I need.
Okay.
Thank you. All these people started translating the game. I allowed people to like print it at home and play it to try it out. People were translating it. People started texting me and emailing me. And it created a small fan base of international players. And so I kept working on the game, and a year later, I launched Kickstarter again, and it blew up, and it made like 20 grand or something like that. And so I got to make the game, and it was manufactured in Hong Kong, and it took 4 years of manufacturing problems and bullshit and running out of money, and hence why I'm working at a pizzeria.
A very good one.
A very good one where I make a really good money, but I had to work my way into weird things. Like I work overnight 2 nights a week pretty much. I only really work 3 days a week. I make more than I ever did before.
Because that place is open late.
It was the first place, I think, in Nashville that was my phone too. It was the first place in Nashville that was open till 3 or something like that. It's insane. But it's good. It's great.
And it's always packed.
Always packed.
Yeah, and it's consistent, which you want that in a restaurant. Mm-hmm. I do think Mafioso's is a very consistent, food and service.
Good location. Yeah. And it's a weird place because it's like a super tight-knit family and everyone is an artist. It's very strange there. They have another location where I met this guy named The Weapon, and we started Beset together. My buddy Noah, he drums for it. He works at this location with me, and it's very...
His name is The Weapon.
We call him The Weapon, yeah, because he's our secret weapon, and because he might hurt us if he can't get his pedal board correct.
Is he like Steven Seagal? He can kill you.
No, he's more like The Weapon, whose real name is Giovanni Moreno. That's
a great name.
It's a great name, but I call him The Weapon. And I showed up to his house late one night when I barely knew him, but it was another thing where I was like, I heard you can record music. So he said, pick me up downtown and I'll take you to my house real quick. And it was like really late one night. And I found him on the side of the street dressed in a 3-piece suit in the middle of the night. And we drove to his house, and it was like a former trap house drug den where it was like, holy shit, did someone die here? And he had a whole wall of amplifiers and pedals and shit. And he said, let me play something. He just plugged in his guitar and he started strumming it, and it just sounded like cassette tapes melting and doing weird stuff. And I was like, let's make a band right now.
Oh, that's so great.
It was super cool.
I love that.
So, but the pizza place has brought a lot of stuff to my life that I never
I know, but imagined. I'm just listening to you, there is this sense of that you say, okay, that you show up. And you take those leaps and you keep at it too. I think that's also impressive that 4 years is a long time. A lot of people would have given up.
Yeah, when those boxes arrived, it was surreal. It was crazy.
That you had met your goal.
Yeah. It took 4 years, and all of a sudden, instead of worrying about everything that could go wrong, all of a sudden I'm surrounded by boxes of this fancy card game. And now...
By the way, we haven't even called it by
It's
name.
Called Spell Saga. I brought you some, actually.
Spell Saga.
Spell Saga.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Alliteration.
Yes.
Good zipper
And you
sounds.
identify with, obviously, the guy. You are he.
I think I am. I think I'm... The guy's name is Lith.
Lith?
The last minstrel. Lith.
Okay.
Yeah. Here.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Oh, the artwork is very beautiful.
Yeah, my cousin's great. Here, this didn't shatter, so you can have this too.
Oh, thank you. This is your record. Efforts presents I Bought You a Coffin.
My wife was not happy with that title.
I Bought You a Coffin? I thought it was great when you sent me this.
It was about her, so she wasn't happy. But she likes it now. She sings it and stuff.
Well, it is a thing you have to do for your loved ones, is it not?
It is. It wasn't said in a nice way, though.
I love it. What happens next, then, with the game?
I'm sending out across the world right now to everyone that paid for it 4 years ago.
They must be excited.
I've been getting some super cool emails from people who get it, and next, my cousin and I have to figure out how to get Deck 3 manufactured, which there's so many easier ways now to do stuff. Like when I started making card games, everything was just impossible. And it was like, well, there was like some information on the internet, like how would you even go about such a thing? And it just, I would just walk in a parking lot where I worked for every lunch break, just like, how the fuck am I ever going to do this? This is impossible. I know this is what I want to do in my life, but it's impossible. And now, you know, through the magic of Google and that everything's on the internet, like someone could come with a card game today, make it at home and get it printed in China and sent to their house in 2 weeks. It's so easy now. I mean, getting a fan base isn't, I guess that's still hard, but.
Sure. Well, it must be a good game, else you wouldn't have a worldwide.
Let's hope so. I think it is. I play it and I really like it. It's a little different every time you play. It's like Zelda or something like that. It's like playing a video game where it's like you can do a lot of different things. There's an overall story there, but what you do is your story, so it's a little different each time. Because it is a new type of game, so figuring out how to teach people was really hard. And I had a lot of friends help me figure out how to make a rule book, and it went through many iterations. And it was, so like 2 years ago, the rule book was 40 pages, and this year it's down to 13 or something like that, because it gets easier and easier. It helps. I'm famously bad at my own games. Like, I made a lot of games growing up. My friends always beat me at them. They liked them, but I was like, I'm not good at games. I just like to make them.
So that's interesting.
Yeah. But I have a friend named Giovannina, and she...
Do you only get friends who have cool names?
Yeah,
that's like
I think
your
so.
law.
Yeah, I think so. But she sat down with the game, and most people get in turn 10 and was like, turn 7, she's like, I got it. And I'd watch her sit there for like hours. She just play it by herself. And seeing how her brain worked with it, because it was close enough to mine, I was like, oh, I know how to teach people now. I can do it. So I got the rule book down to like 13 pages or whatever, and I think that will help people to enjoy it, because it's...
Well, I assume there's an online culture for it too, so probably they help each other. That's
kind of the next step is, so like... You know, like making music, it's hard to get people to notice it or to review it and things like that. It's disgustingly hard. The tabletop gaming culture is still so small and everyone's still so lovely, even when they're not, that to get something reviewed is fairly easy. It's usually free. You just have to send them a copy. Mm-hmm. And people are very happy to try, especially if something's new, to make videos of it and tell other people about it. So the next step after sending out all these international packages is to open the store and send out a shit ton of review copies and just keep building it into whatever it's going to be, mm-hmm. and hopefully get my cousin a lot of money.
Well, family, you know.
Yeah.
So exciting. How can people find the game?
spellsaga.com.
That's very easy. And I always put links to everything on heyhumanpodcast.com. Continuing on with the music, continuing on with you're on your own hero's journey. Obviously.
Yeah, I got to get to the caves and the beach, yeah.
Yeah. What does that mean to you? Or do you know?
I think just becoming... the best version of whoever I can become, just to keep growing, just to not do things because I'm afraid, you know. I think that's where I just need to be. I just want to get to a point where I'm doing things even when I'm afraid of them. As long as I do that, I'll know I've reached my goal. Would you have any advice for little you now, looking back? Probably a lot. Because it all feeds into who you are. I think about running into my 8-year-old self. I'm sure everybody does it. But I think about it, it's like, oh man, what would I tell you? Like, I'd probably say, you didn't do anything wrong. Because I was always afraid of you didn't do anything wrong. Most of the shit people have told you isn't real. Satan isn't going to eat you. Or come to the phone lines like I was told as a child. That was just to keep your long distance short. Your dad and mom were like, that's really expensive. Let's tell him Satan comes through the phone. Satan is coming through the phone lines, yeah. I don't know if he's still around. But I would just probably tell myself to not be a hateful piece of shit. And because there was definitely a small section of my life where instead of dealing with my feelings in my childhood, I was just mean. I was an asshole. I didn't like myself in my life. And I probably just tell myself, you didn't do anything wrong and don't be a jerk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a good mantra.
I think it's probably pretty good, yeah.
Yeah. Todd, you're awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for talking.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you said yes.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening. Please rate and review Hey Human on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. Thanks.